1976 was loud. Disco was rising. Rock was evolving. Soft pop ruled the airwaves. And somewhere between stadium anthems and chart-topping legends, a handful of songs exploded onto the radio, then vanished. They weren't career-defining superstars. They weren't album-dominating icons. They were lightning in a bottle. Number 10, Junk Food Junkie, Larry Gross.
And my friends is always begging me to take them on macrobiotic trips.
In the mid-1970s, America was discovering granola, health food stores were popping up, yoga was entering mainstream culture, organic eating was becoming fashionable. And then Larry Gross released a song that quietly mocked all of it.
And I take it off to my closet where nobody else can see.
Junk Food Junkie. On the surface, it sounds wholesome. Acoustic guitar, clean melody, a folk-style vocal delivery that feels straight out of a coffee house. But listen closely. The narrator claims to live on wheat germ, organic vegetables, and healthy herbal tea, yet secretly sneaks into the pantry at night to devour Twinkies and potato chips. I'm a junk food junkie. Good Lord, have pity on me. It was satire, gentle, playful, but pointed.
And I pop it in my mouth.
Gross's performance was deadpan, which made the joke land even harder. The song climbed to number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1976 and became a radio novelty favorite. And then, nothing. Larry Gross never came close to repeating that success on the pop charts.
At night I'm a junk food junkie. Good Lord, have pity on me.
He later built a respectable career in children's music and public radio, but in mainstream pop culture, he remained tied to this one quirky hit. What made it work was timing. 1976 was a year of cultural transition. America was coming out of Watergate. Bicentennial celebrations were everywhere. Trends were shifting quickly.
Well, at lunchtime you can always find me at the Whole Earth Vitamin Bar.
Junk Food Junkie captured that moment with humor, poking fun at the gap between image and reality. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't revolutionary, but it was catchy. And for 1 year, it was everywhere. That's the magic of a one-hit wonder. They don't need longevity, they just need a moment. Number 9, A Fifth of Beethoven, Walter Murphy and the Big Apple Band. In 1976, disco wasn't just filling dance floors, it was invading history. And somehow, even Beethoven wasn't safe. A Fifth of Beethoven took the unmistakable opening motif of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and turned it into a full-blown disco anthem. Strings pulsed, bass thumped, the rhythm section locked into a 4-on-the-floor groove, da-da-da-dum, but this time you could dance to it. Walter Murphy, a classically trained musician, saw what was happening in clubs and decided to fuse orchestral tradition with disco energy. The result was bold, theatrical, and completely unexpected, and it worked. The song shot to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in late 1976 and became one of the defining novelty disco hits of the year. It also gained massive exposure through the film Saturday Night Fever, even though Murphy himself wasn't part of the disco scene in the traditional sense. The brilliance of the track was its simplicity. It didn't parody Beethoven. It respected the original melody, but reframed it. In the middle of a decade obsessed with dance music, A Fifth of Beethoven proved that even 18th century classical themes could thrive under a mirror ball. But here's the thing about novelty innovation. It's hard to repeat. Murphy never scored another major pop hit. He continued working as a composer, especially in television and animation. But in terms of mainstream chart dominance, this was his moment. And what a moment it was. The song perfectly captured 1976's spirit. Playful, experimental, slightly excessive, and unapologetically fun. It wasn't trying to change music forever. It was trying to make people move. And for 1 year, it did. Number 8. More, More, More. Andrea True, Connection. Sometimes a hit song isn't planned. It's accidental. In 1976, Andrea True wasn't trying to become a disco star. She was working in the adult film industry and happened to be in Jamaica for a film shoot when new US banking restrictions froze her payment. She couldn't take her money home, so she did something unexpected. She used the remaining funds to record a song. That song was More, 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 built on a hypnotic groove, silky strings, and one of the most recognizable drum breaks of the disco era. The track felt effortlessly sensual. More, more, more. How do you like it? How do you like it? The lyrics were suggestive. The production was smooth. The rhythm was irresistible. And radio couldn't get enough. The single climbed to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a dance floor staple in clubs across America. Its instrumental break, especially that crisp hi-hat pattern, would later become one of the most sampled drum grooves in music history. It sounded glamorous, but it was almost a fluke. Andrea True didn't have a long pop career waiting in the wings. The Andrea True Connection released follow-up singles, but none matched the explosive success of More, More, More. By the end of the decade, disco itself was facing backlash. And Andrea's moment in the spotlight faded just as quickly as it had arrived. But that groove, it never disappeared. The song would be revived decades later through sampling and interpolation, proving that sometimes a one-hit wonder can echo far beyond its original chart run. In 1976, disco was about desire, escape, and repetition. More, 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 delivered all three. And for one summer, that was enough. Number 7, right back where we started from. Maxine Nightingale. Not every one-hit wonder is a novelty, some are pure joy. Right Back Where We Started From feels like sunshine in audio form. Released in 1976 by British singer Maxine Nightingale, the song exploded with optimism at a time when the charts were full of disco experimentation and emotional ballads. From the first piano riff, it sounds familiar, almost nostalgic even on first listen. Ooh, and it's alright and it's coming on. The groove is tight, the rhythm bounces, the melody is instantly memorable. It climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the US, becoming one of the year's biggest pop hits. Ironically, it wasn't even intended to be a major single at first. It was originally recorded as a B-side, but radio DJs flipped it over, and audiences responded immediately. What made it stand out in 1976 was its retro feel. While disco was dominating clubs, this song leaned into a 1960s Motown-inspired vibe. Upbeat, clean, feel-good. It felt timeless rather than trendy, and that timeless quality helped it endure. The problem? It was lightning in a bottle. Maxine Nightingale released other songs, but none came close to repeating the crossover success of this one. She remained popular in certain markets and genres, but in mainstream pop history, she is forever linked to this single track. That's the strange thing about one-hit wonders. Sometimes they don't disappear because they lack talent. Sometimes they just capture a moment so perfectly that nothing else can compete with it. Right Back Where We Started From became a cultural reset button, a song about returning to love, returning to beginnings, returning to happiness. And nearly 50 years later, it still feels fresh. Number 6, Moonlight Feels Right, Starbuck.
The wind blew some luck in my direction.
Some one-hit wonders are remembered for their lyrics, others for their drama. But Moonlight Feels Right is remembered for something entirely different. That marimba solo, released in 1976 by Atlanta-based band Starbuck. The song feels like a breezy summer night captured in 3.5 minutes. Smooth electric piano, laid-back vocals, soft yacht rock atmosphere. And then, that marimba enters bright, playful, unforgettable. The instrumental break became the defining moment of the track, so distinctive that even listeners who don't remember the band's name instantly recognize the sound. The single climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming a major hit during the summer of '76. It felt relaxed, romantic, slightly sophisticated.
The moon will send you on your way.
Moonlight feels right. The lyrics are simple: an evening by the water, a quiet romantic escape. Nothing dramatic, nothing controversial, just atmosphere. And that's exactly why it worked. In the middle of disco excess and theatrical pop experiments, Moonlight Feels Right offered something smooth and understated. It fit perfectly on late-night radio. It felt adult, but not heavy. Starbuck had musicianship. The production was polished. The arrangement was tight.
Lay back and observe the constellations.
But like many one-hit wonders, they never found a second single that captured the same magic. Follow-ups charted modestly, but nothing stuck. And over time, the band faded from mainstream memory, except for that marimba. Because sometimes a single musical moment is enough to freeze a song in time. In 1976, Moonlight Feels Right became the soundtrack to warm evenings and open windows. And for one summer, that was more than enough. Number 5, Let Your Love Flow, the Bellamy Brothers.
For the sunshine sky, and there's a reason.
In 1976, genres were starting to blur. Country was crossing into pop. Pop was borrowing from folk. And suddenly, two brothers from Florida delivered a song that felt effortless and unstoppable.
When that love light shines all around us.
Let Your Love Flow. From the very first acoustic strum, it sounds open, bright, free. There's a reason for the sunshine sky. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't disco. It wasn't theatrical. It was pure optimism. The Bellamy Brothers had been grinding in the industry for years with little success. Then this song, originally written by Neil Diamond's roadie Larry Williams, landed in their hands. They recorded it almost casually, and it exploded. The single reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1976 and became an international hit, crossing over into multiple markets including Europe and Australia. The magic of Let Your Love Flow was its simplicity. No heavy production tricks, no novelty hook, no gimmick, just harmony, melody, and an easygoing message about love and connection. In the middle of a decade that could sometimes feel overproduced and dramatic, this song felt natural, almost effortless. But here's where the one-hit wonder label gets complicated. The Bellamy Brothers actually went on to have massive success in country music. They became one of the genre's most successful duos in the 1980s. But in mainstream pop culture, this was their one towering moment. Pop radio never embraced them like this again. Let Your Love Flow remains frozen in 1976, a song that feels like sunshine on vinyl. It's not ironic, it's not complex, it's just sincere. And sometimes sincerity is exactly what defines a moment. Number 4, Welcome Back, John Sebastian.
That same old place that you laughed about.
Sometimes a one-hit wonder doesn't come from the radio, it comes from television. In 1976, America was tuning in every week to a brand new sitcom about a group of underachieving high school students and their wisecracking teacher. The show was Welcome Back, Kotter, and its theme song, Welcome Back by John Sebastian. From the first piano notes, the song feels warm, familiar, almost nostalgic, even when it was brand new. Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Sebastian, formerly of the Lovin' Spoonful, wrote the song specifically for the show after being approached by the producers. It wasn't meant to be a major pop single, but audiences connected with it instant.
But those dreams have remained and they've turned around.
Sebastian, formerly of the Lovin' Spoonful, wrote the song specifically for the show after being approached by the producers. It wasn't meant to be a major pop single, but audiences connected with it instant. The single climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1976. It was comforting, gentle, friendly. At a time when disco beats were dominating dance floors and theatrical rock was pushing boundaries, Welcome Back felt like sitting on your living room couch.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Its success was tied closely to the show's popularity. As Welcome Back, Cotter became a cultural phenomenon, launching the career of John Travolta. The theme song rode that wave. But here's the challenge with TV theme hits. When the show fades, so does the song's momentum. John Sebastian had already enjoyed success in the 1960s, but as a solo pop artist in the mid-70s, this became his defining chart moment. After Welcome Back, he never reached those heights again on the pop charts. The song remains inseparable from its era, instantly transporting listeners back to feathered hair, bell-bottoms, and Friday night television. It wasn't edgy, it wasn't groundbreaking, it was welcoming. And in 1976, that was exactly what people wanted. Number 4, George Harrison, Somewhere in England, 1981. By 1981, George Harrison was tired of the music industry. After the spiritual triumph of All Things Must Pass, his later albums received mixed reactions. He felt misunderstood, disconnected from radio trends, and increasingly frustrated with his record label. Then came Somewhere in England, an album he didn't really want to finish.
You send the rain and bring the sun.
Warner Brothers rejected the first version. They literally sent it back. They told Harrison the songs weren't strong enough. For a former Beatle to be told his album wasn't good enough, that stung.
You got the lucky rise that says you have the life.
So he reworked it. He removed 4 tracks, added new material. One of those additions was All Those Years Ago, written after John Lennon's death. That song gave the album emotional weight and commercial traction, but it also changed the tone. What started as a quiet, introspective project suddenly became a tribute record shaped by tragedy.
The blood from each clone.
The sessions were tense. Harrison wasn't chasing hits. The label was. He felt pressured to modernize his sound for the early 80s market. More polished production, more radio appeal. You can hear the compromise. It's reflective, but slightly restrained. Personal, yet cautious. Commercially, it performed well. But creatively, it feels like an album made under negotiation rather than inspiration. Harrison later seemed distant from it, not angry, just detached. Number 3, The Beach Boys, Pet Sounds, 1966. This might be the most shocking entry on this list, because today Pet Sounds is considered one of the greatest albums ever made. But in 1966, not everyone in the Beach Boys wanted to make it.
Tell me you want it.
Brian Wilson had stopped touring. He stayed in Los Angeles while the band traveled the world playing surf hits. During that time, he heard Rubber Soul by the Beatles, and something shifted. He didn't want to write about cars and beaches anymore. He wanted to write about loneliness, vulnerability, growing up. The rest of the band, they weren't so sure. Mike Love reportedly questioned the lyrics. Who's gonna relate to this? Where's the fun? The band had built their career on sunny harmonies and teenage energy. Now Brian was bringing in harpsichords, bicycle bells, barking dogs, and some of the most emotionally raw songwriting of the decade. It didn't sound like the Beach Boys. The recording process was obsessive. Brian used session musicians, the Wrecking Crew, instead of the touring band. Some members felt sidelined, others were confused by the direction. The label didn't understand it either. Capitol Records barely promoted it. In the US, it underperformed.
Aren't you glad that you found me?
Ironically, the UK embraced it, and decades later, it's routinely ranked in the top 5 albums of all time. But at the moment it was being made, it felt risky, divisive, even unwanted by parts of the band. Number 2, Afternoon Delight, Starland Vocal Band. In 1976, not every controversial song sounded rebellious. Some sounded cheerful. Afternoon Delight by Starland Vocal Band arrived with soft harmonies, acoustic guitars, and a breezy, almost wholesome vibe. It sounded like something you'd hear on a sunny picnic afternoon. And that was the trick, because once listeners paid attention to the lyrics, they realized it wasn't about picnics.
When everything's a little clearer in the light of
Skyrockets in Flight, Afternoon Delight. The song was about daytime intimacy, delivered with such upbeat innocence that many radio stations played it before fully processing what it implied. The track shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in July 1976, and even won a Grammy for Best New Artist.
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway.
But what made it popular also made it polarizing. The harmonies were sugary. The production was clean. The performance almost aggressively wholesome. That contrast, bright melody paired with suggestive lyrics, made some listeners uncomfortable. Was it playful? Was it awkward? Was it unintentionally hilarious?
Night and the thought of loving you is getting so exciting. Sky.
All of the above. And because it was so inescapable that summer, overplay quickly turned affection into annoyance for many people. Starland vocal band never replicated the success. They had the exposure, even landing a short-lived television variety show, but no follow-up single captured the same attention. The song became shorthand for mid-70s soft pop excess. It wasn't edgy disco, it wasn't serious rock, it was something in between, and impossible to ignore. Nearly 50 years later, Afternoon Delight still divides listeners. Some call it catchy nostalgia, others call it one of the most awkward hits of the decade. Either way, it defined 1976. #1, Play That Funky Music. Wild Cherry, 1976. And here it is, the biggest one-hit wonder of 1976, a song born out of an insult. Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry. The band had originally been a rock group playing mostly hard rock covers in clubs across the Midwest. But as disco and funk began taking over dance floors, audiences started shouting something at them during shows. Play some funky music. At first, it wasn't encouragement, it was criticism. The crowd wanted groove, not guitar solos. So lead singer Rob Parisi did something unexpected. He wrote a song about it. Play that funky music, white boy. That line was bold, self-aware, slightly provocative. It acknowledged the band's identity, a mostly white rock group, stepping into a genre rooted in black funk and soul traditions. And instead of resisting the shift, they embraced it. The result? A tight, irresistible groove built around a choppy guitar riff, punchy bass line, and dance-ready rhythm. It hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in September 1976 and became a massive crossover hit, blending rock radio and dance floors seamlessly. What made it work was authenticity. Despite its novelty origin story, the musicianship was sharp. The groove felt real. The production was clean but powerful. It didn't feel like a parody of funk. It felt like a genuine attempt to join the movement. But that same defining identity became a trap. Wild Cherry released follow-up singles, but nothing matched the explosive success of this one track. The funk rock fusion they introduced would later become common in bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. But in 1976, it was still a fresh experiment. And sometimes being first doesn't guarantee longevity. Play That Funky Music became frozen in time, a song instantly recognizable from its first guitar riff.
It's so much better.
Nearly 50 years later, it still fills dance floors at weddings, sporting events, and retro parties, and that's the strange beauty of one-hit wonders. They may only dominate once, but when they hit hard enough to last forever. 1976 gave us legends, but it also gave us these lightning strike moments, songs that ruled radio for a year and then quietly stepped aside.